My wife said I was too boring while she slept with her boss on the clock. So I let her bury herself, took everything, and walked away without a scratch. I am 38, work as a senior systems analyst for a logistics company, and I live in Columbus, Ohio. My job is predictable, mostly remote, good pay, stable hours. I leave the house twice a week for in-person meetings and otherwise spend my days building process maps and fixing other people's mistakes in spreadsheets. I like routine. I pay bills early. I cook most nights. That is the baseline. My wife, Marissa, is 35 and works as a regional sales manager for a medical supply distributor. We have been married for 9 years, together for 11. No kids. We own a townhouse with a manageable mortgage and 2 car payments that are almost done. On paper, everything is calm and boring in the way adult life is supposed to be. About a year ago, Marissa started calling me boring. Not joking, not teasing. She would say it flatly, like an assessment. She said I lacked ambition, that I never surprised her, that I was too predictable. She said other husbands planned weekend trips and bought random gifts. I reminded her that we had just remodeled the kitchen and paid cash. She said that was practical, not exciting. The tone shifted over time. She became sharper. If I suggested staying in on a Friday, she would roll her eyes and say, "Of course you would." If I asked about her day, she would snap that I would not understand because my job was safe and simple. She liked that word. Safe. She used it like an insult. The first time she called me too boring to my face in front of other people was at a coworker happy hour I attended with her. She laughed and told her team that I was dependable, but about as thrilling as plain oatmeal. Everyone chuckled. I did not react in the moment. I finished my drink, drove us home, and went to bed. What she did not realize was that I stopped arguing after that night for a reason. Not because I agreed. Because I was paying attention. After that happy hour, I adjusted my approach. I stopped defending myself when she called me boring. I stopped trying to counter her with logic. Instead, I started observing patterns. Marissa's schedule changed around the same time the comments escalated. Sales is cyclical, so late nights during quarter end are normal. I understand that. What caught my attention was the frequency. She began staying out 2 or 3 nights a week, claiming client dinners or strategy meetings. Her phone, which used to live face up on the kitchen counter, was suddenly always face down. She started taking calls in the spare bedroom with the door closed. None of this alone proves anything. I am aware of that. I work in systems analysis. Correlation is not causation. So I waited for something concrete. The first data point came from something small. One Tuesday afternoon, I left early to grab coffee before a virtual meeting. I work from home, but I needed air. I stopped by a cafe near her office because it is quieter during mid-afternoon. As I walked in, I saw Marissa at a corner table. She was not alone. She was sitting across from a man I recognized from a framed photo on her desk. Her regional director, Daniel, early 40s, married. The man she had described as intense but brilliant. It was 2:30 in the afternoon. Both of them were in work clothes. They were not going over paperwork. There were no laptops open. They were leaning close, laughing in a way that did not look professional. I did not storm over. I did not confront her. I walked back out before she saw me. When she came home that night, she mentioned nothing about a coffee meeting. Instead, she complained that I had not done the laundry the way she prefers. I listened. I nodded. I filed away the inconsistency. That was when the intrigue shifted from suspicion to strategy. I do not react emotionally to incomplete information. I verify. And I had just seen the beginning of something worth verifying. I did not dig through her phone. I did not install tracking software or do anything illegal. I kept it clean. If there was something going on, I wanted proof that would stand up in a room with lawyers, not just in my own head. About 2 weeks after I saw her with Daniel, she told me she had to attend an off-site leadership workshop on a Thursday. Overnight stay. Company paid. She sounded almost rehearsed when she explained it. I said that made sense. Quarter planning usually happens around that time. That same week, I checked her company's public event calendar. The workshop was real. It was listed as a one-day event ending at 5 p.m. No overnight block. No second day. Again, that alone did not mean anything. Sometimes executives stay late to network. So I waited. Thursday night came. She texted around 9 p.m. saying she was exhausted and heading to bed. I replied normally. Around 11 p.m., I checked our shared credit card account. We keep one joint card for household expenses. I manage it because I handle the finances. There was a pending charge from a boutique hotel downtown, not the conference hotel listed on the event page. a smaller place known for weekend couples packages. I did not call her. I did not text her. I screenshotted the charge and saved it in a folder on my desktop. The next morning, she came home around 8 a.m., carrying a tote bag with her laptop and a change of clothes. She kissed my cheek and said the workshop ran late and they all decided to stay nearby rather than drive home tired. I asked which hotel. She named the conference one. I said okay. That was the moment something in me shifted permanently. Not anger. Not even hurt. Clarity. Because once someone lies about a small, verifiable detail, the rest of the story becomes a math problem. And I am very good at math problems. Once I had the hotel charge and the false hotel name, I stopped looking for emotional reassurance and started looking at logistics. Affairs require time. Time leaves traces. Marissa's company issues mileage reimbursements for in-person client visits. She sometimes complained about the paperwork, so she would forward the summaries to our shared email when she needed printer access at home. I went back through the last 3 months. Her reported client visits did not always line up with the late nights. On several days, she claimed to be across town meeting hospitals. Her mileage report showed minimal driving. Under 10 miles total. That is not a day full of client stops. That is a short commute and back. I also reviewed our shared Google Calendar. We have kept one since we moved in together. It is color-coded. Mine is predictable. Hers had started showing vague blocks like strategy session or field alignment. No locations attached. Again, none of this alone proves anything. But patterns matter. The second concrete moment happened on a Wednesday. I had a dentist appointment in the morning near her office. When I finished, I drove past her building out of simple curiosity. Her car was not in the lot. At 11:15 a.m., she texted me that she was swamped with back-to-back meetings and would call later. I did not respond right away. Instead, I drove to the boutique hotel from the previous charge. It is 5 minutes from her office. Her car was parked on the side street. I did not approach it. I did not go inside. I took a photo of the license plate with the hotel sign visible in the background. Then I drove home and logged into work. When she came home that evening, she was irritated about traffic. She said her boss had been riding everyone hard about performance, and she was exhausted. That was the first time she mentioned Daniel that week. She described him as demanding but visionary. Then she looked at me and said at least he is not boring. I did not react outwardly. Internally, I stopped being her husband in that moment and became someone documenting a case. By that point, I was not guessing. I was confirming frequency. I pulled our cell phone statement. We are on a shared plan. I do not read her messages. I am not interested in content. I am interested in patterns. There were dozens of short calls between her and Daniel's number outside business hours. Late evenings. Early mornings. Several clustered during the exact times she claimed to be in meetings. I cross-referenced those timestamps with the hotel charge, and the morning I saw her car parked there. The calls lined up within minutes of both. At that stage, I had enough to confront her privately if I wanted. But I did not. Not yet. The reason is simple. We own property together. We have joint accounts. And in Ohio, fault does not automatically dictate asset division, but documented infidelity can influence negotiation leverage in mediation. I did not need drama. I needed positioning. So I met with an attorney during my lunch break on a Thursday. I took printed copies of the hotel charge, the car photo, and the phone log. I asked very direct questions about my options. He told me to stay calm, gather documentation, and not tip my hand until I was ready to file. That same weekend, Marissa hosted a small dinner with 2 coworkers, including Daniel. I agreed to be there. Watching them interact in my own kitchen clarified everything. They were careful. No touching. No obvious intimacy. But their eye contact was sustained. Familiar. Too comfortable. At one point, Marissa made a comment about how some people just do not evolve and get stuck in routine. She looked directly at me when she said it. Daniel laughed a little too hard. I did not respond. I cleared plates and poured wine. The difference was this. She thought I was passive. She thought I lacked awareness. In reality, I was letting her build a documented pattern while I stayed compliant on the surface. When someone believes you are boring, they stop hiding efficiently. And that is when they get sloppy. 2 weeks after that dinner, Marissa escalated the criticism. It was no longer casual jabs. It became comparative. She started talking about how driven people operate differently. How high performers need stimulation. She began dressing differently for work. Sharper. More deliberate. New lingerie that I never saw her wear at home. I am not naive. One night, she told me directly that sometimes she wondered what it would be like to be with someone more dynamic. She said it calmly, like she was discussing a career move. Then she added that she felt underappreciated and constrained by routine. I asked her a simple question. Are you unhappy enough to leave? She said no. She said I was stable. That stability mattered. That I should not be so sensitive. That was the moment I understood her framework. She did not want to leave the marriage. She wanted the security of it while outsourcing excitement elsewhere. I did not argue. I simply said I would think about what she said. Behind the scenes, I separated our finances more cleanly. I opened a new individual account for my salary. In Ohio, that is legal. I did not drain joint funds. I just redirected future income. I also requested a formal valuation of the townhouse under the pretense of checking refinance options. That gave me an updated market number. The final piece of confirmation came unintentionally from her. One Friday afternoon, she forgot to log out of her work email on our shared desktop in the spare room. I was not snooping. I sat down to print something and saw her inbox open. At the top was an email from Daniel. Subject line simply said Thursday. The preview line was enough. Same room as last time works for me. I did not open it further. I did not need to. At that point, I had documentation, timeline consistency, financial separation in progress, and legal counsel on standby. She still believed I was too boring to notice. She had no idea I was already planning my exit down to the week. I chose a date deliberately, the following Thursday, the same weekday referenced in the email subject line. If she was going to repeat the hotel routine, I wanted everything aligned. That morning she told me she had back-to-back site visits and would probably stay late for performance reviews with Daniel. I told her I hoped it went well. No sarcasm. No tension. At 1 p.m. I logged into our joint credit card portal and waited. Around 2:17 p.m., the same boutique hotel showed a pending charge. Different room number attached in the merchant details. I screenshotted it. Again. Then I called my attorney and told him I was ready to file. He had already drafted the paperwork based on our prior consultation. I emailed him the new documentation and authorized him to proceed the next morning. That evening, Marissa texted around 8 p.m. saying she was exhausted and might grab a drink with the team before heading home. I replied that I was ordering takeout and not to worry about me. Instead of sitting at home, I drove to the townhouse and began quietly packing essentials. Not hers. Mine. Documents, laptop, personal items. I had already secured a short-term furnished rental across town earlier that week. Month-to-month lease. Close to my office for in-person days. I was not leaving impulsively. I was staging the transition. Around 10:30 p.m., she came home. Slightly flushed. Smelling like hotel soap, not bar smoke. She launched into a complaint about how demanding Daniel had been in reviews and how leadership required intensity. Then she looked at me and said you would not understand. You prefer safe lanes. I listened. I nodded once. Internally, the timeline was complete. Financial separation initiated. Legal filing scheduled. Alternate housing secured. She still thought the worst thing she had done was hurt my feelings. In reality, she had handed me leverage, clarity, and motive to walk clean. Friday morning at 9 a.m., my attorney filed the petition for dissolution. In Ohio, it is straightforward if there are no children. The paperwork cited irreconcilable differences. It did not need to detail the affair yet. That becomes leverage during negotiation, not a public spectacle. At 11:30 a.m., she was served at her office. She called me at 11:42. Her tone was not angry at first. It was confused. She asked if this was some kind of mistake. I told her calmly that it was not. I said I had been aware of her relationship with Daniel for months. I told her I had documentation of hotel charges during work hours and phone records that matched. There was a long silence. Then she shifted to defensive. She said I was paranoid, that I was overanalyzing harmless meetings, that Daniel was mentoring her. I told her that mentoring does not require boutique hotel rooms at 2 p.m. She asked how long I had known. I said long enough to plan responsibly. Then I ended the call. Not dramatically, not mid-sentence. I simply told her that further communication would go through attorneys and hung up. Within the same minute, I blocked her number. I blocked her on every platform we used. Text, social media, even email filters routed her address to a separate folder I would only access if legally necessary. It was not emotional. It was procedural. If I stayed available, the conversation would spiral into blame, bargaining, or manipulation. I had already given her the only explanation she needed. Anything further would dilute the position I had built. Within 10 minutes, she tried calling again from a different number. It went to voicemail. I did not listen to it. Shortly after, she emailed me saying we needed to talk like adults. We were talking like adults. Through attorneys. By the end of that afternoon, my lawyer confirmed she had retained counsel as well. That was expected. What she did not expect was that I would not engage privately, not argue, not yell, not demand closure. She thought boring meant passive. What it actually meant was disciplined. And disciplined people do not debate after they execute a plan. Once I blocked her, the noise stopped immediately on my end. No late-night calls. No emotional texts. No attempts to reframe the narrative in real time. Silence is underrated when you are exiting cleanly. Her attorney reached out the following Monday requesting a preliminary asset list. My attorney had it prepared. We had already compiled mortgage statements, retirement accounts, savings balances, and the updated property valuation. Because I had redirected my salary weeks earlier, there was no last-minute scramble or suspicious transfers to explain. Marissa tried one indirect tactic. She emailed my sister asking if I was going through something mentally. My sister forwarded it to me without responding. I instructed her not to engage. That was the only outreach attempt that slipped past the block. In mediation, her tone reportedly shifted again. My attorney told me she described the affair as a mistake that never meant anything. She argued that I was overreacting and that marriages require forgiveness. What she could not argue with were timestamps and financial records. The hotel charges occurred during paid work hours. That mattered more than she realized. If pushed, that information could affect her employment. I did not threaten it. I did not need to. The implication alone altered her posture. When division discussions began, she expected to keep the townhouse. It is closer to her office. But she could not afford the mortgage alone at the current rate. I could. However, I did not want it. I wanted liquidity and separation. So we negotiated a sale. Because the market had risen since our purchase, there was equity. After mortgage payoff and fees, the split left me with enough to secure a down payment elsewhere and maintain my retirement contributions uninterrupted. There were no dramatic courtroom scenes. No shouting matches. Just paperwork and deadlines. The most telling part was this. At no point did she apologize in writing. Not once. Every message framed the situation as mutual breakdown rather than unilateral betrayal. That confirmed something for me. She did not regret the affair. She regretted miscalculating me. The townhouse sold 6 weeks later. We signed the closing documents in separate rooms. I did not see her. Funds were wired the same afternoon. By then I had already extended my lease on the rental and started looking at smaller properties closer to my office. Not as an upgrade, just as a reset. Through attorneys, she made one last attempt to speak directly. She claimed she wanted closure. My lawyer asked if I was open to a final conversation. I declined. Closure is a mutual exercise. She forfeited that when she decided secrecy was more valuable than honesty. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Daniel's wife discovered everything shortly after the filing. Apparently, workplace rumors started circulating once Marissa was served. Whether his marriage survived is not my concern. I never contacted her. I never contacted his employer. I did not need revenge to feel resolved. Marissa sent a final message through counsel asking if I truly felt nothing after 9 years. That was the only time her language hinted at emotion. The answer is simple. I felt enough to act. People assume calm equals weak. They confuse predictability with a lack of awareness. She built a narrative in her head where I was too boring to notice, too safe to leave, too stable to disrupt. In reality, stability gave me leverage. Boring paid the mortgage. Boring documented timelines. Boring consulted attorneys before speaking. Boring blocked her the moment the facts were stated. When everything finalized, I did not celebrate. I updated my budget spreadsheet, scheduled movers for the last of my storage, and went back to work Monday morning. There were no scratches because I never stepped into the chaos. I stayed in process. If there is advice in this, it is not about revenge. It is about clarity. When someone shows you they want excitement without accountability, believe them once. Then act once. And do not look back.